Hello, everybody. I'm Dale Skaggs, Director of Horticulture here at the Dixon Gallery and Gardens. And I want to thank you for joining us today on this beautiful day for a Zoom meeting. I'm not a huge fan of the Zoom meeting, but it sure has been a great way to connect with people during this time. So I'm going to attempt to start sharing my screen here. Let's see if I can pull that off. Okay. Screen sharing and voila. Everybody should be able to see my screen. Can somebody give me a thumbs up that they can see my screen? All right, got some thumbs up. That's awesome. All right. All right, I'm not a very good multitasker here, but let's just jump in. I'm going to all right, so we're excited to be having a plant sale again this year after we took a hiatus last year due to the restrictions, and we just didn't want to cause any issues with a plant sale. We actually, closed the gardens last year in March because we were having so many people coming to see the tulips. So I hope all of you have had a chance to come and see the tulips. They're still looking okay today. I think probably through this weekend you should be able to still get a decent show, but anyway, they are beautiful, and we've had a nice season, and with it cooling down at night, it kind of helps hold them. So I think they look pretty good this year. But we're here to talk about the Dixon Garden Fair, which is our plant sale. And as many of you know, the sale originally started out as a wildflower sale, and it's sort of evolved. We focus on a lot of rare and unusual plants, and we still have the wildflower staples and some things that we like, and we've used it kind of as a vehicle to help introduce some pretty cool new plants to the Mid-South Gardens. And anyway, which I feel like is a big part of what we should be doing as a public garden here. So I believe the plant list is now posted on the Dixon website. And so let's see if I can, well, I want to advance. Next slide. Hold on just one second. I'm having a little difficulty here. Next slide. Okay. Okay. Yeah, I think the plant list has been posted on the Dixon website now. But please note that we are shopping by appointments, and if you have trouble with that, you can call the Dixon and we can help you get signed up. Apparently, some people are having difficulty navigating the website, much as I'm having difficulty navigating Zoom at the moment. But anyway, do make an appointment, because we're going to limit the numbers that can come to the plant sale. If you're members, from 12 o'clock to 7 o'clock on the 15th, and then public shopping days are the 16th and the 17th. Anyway, you can visit our website for more information. I guess I'm gonna have to do next every time. So today, part one was about a lot of shade perennials, and we're going to talk about sun perennials now. So that's kind of exciting. Sun perennials, usually, most of those really get cranked up in midsummer, but there are some early bloomers that are nice. One that I've really become enamored with in the past few years are some of the Agastache. And I used to think that they were sort of maybe people who were in herb societies or herb groups, stuff like that, were growing this plant. It has very, very fragrant foliage, which makes it deer resistant. And some of these are a little bit more compact and very floriferous, like the Blue Boa here. And it has been a great performer. It's a great color that gives you midsummer blooms, and it'll repeat bloom for a long season. So if you're not growing the Agastaches, it's some of the newer ones are really improved. I kind of got into perennials whenever there were, let these people in. I got into perennials. There were a lot less selections. You know, today everything has been sort of, there's been some great plants been hybridizing, some plants to bring us some new stuff. And, you know, people are patenting and trademarking, and there's fancy pots that they put them in and everything. But I must say that the bloom times, the length of flowering, and all of these things have been improved. So a lot of these new ones are much improved over the old varieties. And Agastache Blue Boa is one that you should add to your sun perennial border. It is a butterfly draw. Butterflies love it, and deer proof. And we have some in the Alice Quinn butterfly garden here at the Dixon. So I guess I'm gonna have to go next every time. All right. So Amsonias, the Amsonia tabernaemontana, the original one was a little bit bigger and less floriferous, and this has been a really good introduction here. Hold on, how do I go back? Okay, you know, this is it gets 24 to 30 inches high, and it can be widespread. It has great fall color, but look at those steely blue flowers. This is a native. Everybody's into planting natives right now. This is a native. Has leaves sort of willow-like and a nice, it's a good perennial with a nice fall color of a butter yellow. So a great native if you're into native perennials. Storm Cloud, a new introduction. So anemones, mostly anemones, you think of the fall blooming anemones. This is Anemone sylvestris. It was one of the parents of this, which means sylvestris is, think of silviculture in Latin. Silva means of the woods. So this probably would need a little bit of protection from the hot afternoon sun, but it's one of the parents is the sylvestris. And people in here, okay. This is a Plants Nouveau introduction, and they're a company that finds and introduces new plants, and they put trademarks on them and that sort of thing. And they offer a lot. This is a summer blooming anemone. So most people think of the fall ones. You think of like the grape leaf anemone, and very floriferous. And anyway, it's good for pollinators. It'll get about maybe 12 inches, 18 inches tall, and maybe 15 inches wide, and good white color. So coming a long way with some of these new varieties. This is one that was bred in the Netherlands, by the way. Anyway, just a good plant. Haven't grown it, but looking forward to adding it to the Dixon garden. All right, this is a fun plant because of its history and sort of, it's kind of, the botanists have kind of classified this as several things. When I first learned the plant, it was in the genus, it was actually Asteromoea mongolica, which is the Latin name here. But then it got changed to Calameris pinnatophyta hortensis. And so it was bounced between those two. And I think they finally settled on Asteromoea mongolica. And the name was so confusing. But there was a gardener, Elizabeth Lawrence, who, and this was dubbed Elizabeth Lawrence's mystery plant. She was gardening in Charlotte, North Carolina. And let's see if I can, she was gardening in South Carolina. She wrote a book on Southern gardening. And anyway, so this was known for the longest time as Elizabeth Lawrence's mystery plant. And as a teenager, I used to propagate this and grow it for Tom Pellet, who couldn't find it in the nursery trade. And he loves it. It's got a long, long bloom time. You know, it's about 18 inches high, maybe 20 inches high, 22 inches high, but it just blooms and blooms and blooms with these little double daisies. And they're small, but there's a lot of them, and it really puts on a show. It's one of those perennials that blooms almost as good as an annual. So anyway, if you have a sun garden and you're not growing the Elizabeth Lawrence's mystery plant, Asteromoea mongolica, it's a good one to add. So let's see if I can next here. Next. So yeah, she wrote several books. She died in 1985, and she had written several books on Southern gardening and was sort of a Southern gardening icon. going back to the 40s and 50s, I think. Baptisias. Baptisias have come a long way. There's some really cool Baptisias out there. Lemon meringue is really sold from Plants Delight Nursery, and this is a much improved over Larry Lohman's Screaming Yellow. There was a plantsman across the river in Wynne, Arkansas that introduced some, and he had one called Screaming Yellow that was a chance seedling that appeared at a Taco Bell in Wynne. Anyway, so he planted the seedlings of that and grew up and had a yellow. I think it was actually a spherocarpa, but they're using all kinds of parentage to get some really nice soft purples and blues and yellows on some of these new cultivars. But they're all about 3 foot tall, about 3 foot wide. About the only downside to Baptisias is the length of bloom time, and that's something that some of these plantsmen have been working on. Tony Avin at Plants Delight Nursery offers lemon meringue. If you want to pay $19 for it, it would be a small pot that you could get shipped mail order. But we'll have big gallons at the sale, and actually, I think these are actually in 2 gallons, if not 3 gallons. They're big husky plants, so they'll kind of have instant effect. And then we have Berry Sunday. This is from Walter's Garden. There's a guy named Hans Hansen. He's actually been here to the Dixon. I gave him some of our Dixon strain foam flower, and he bred this Blueberry Sunday. But Mount Cuba, if y'all know Mount Cuba, it's up in Delaware, and they're dedicated to native plants. It's Mary Copeland DuPont's estate, and they do trials, and they do amazing trials. They're really savvy plant folk up there, and in their trials, lemon meringue really had an impressive floral display that lasts for weeks. So that was the comment on the. I remember that comment on their evaluation. So anyway, longer blooming Baptisias, still has that blue-green foliage. And these are some really good ones. All right, let's move on to some other perennials that probably people don't think of a lot in Memphis. Campanulas. Campanulas are known as bellflowers, and this is Campanula persicifolia, and this is Takion Blue. And anyway, it's a little bit shorter. It has these wonderful bell-shaped flowers. They're a little smaller. It's about 16, maybe 16 inches at 2 feet, say. It needs a little bit of protection from the hot afternoon sun, but I'm excited to see some of these more heat-tolerant campanulas being offered here. It starts blooming in the summer and goes into late autumn. And last year, this was blooming in containers, and I was very, very impressed. And the foliage is not unattractive either. But hard to get that blue in the plant world, and campanulas really fit the bill. And you always know them by that bell-shaped flower. See if I can. There we go. All right, so this is more of a ground cover campanula, and this is called Blue Waterfall. And I was also impressed with this one. This was introduced by the plantsman Adrian Bloom. Some of you may know the Blooms of Bressingham. They're in England. And Alan Bloom was sort of the original perennial grower. And then his son, he passed away. And Adrian Bloom actually continued the business. He actually originally was focusing on conifers, but I guess he does a lot with perennials now. Really nice bell-shaped flowers. They're a little bit more open. You can see the petals they're not completely free. This species is from Yugoslavia, so it's kind of an interesting background to it. But Blue Waterfall, Serbian bellflower. It's a good one, and this is another one that you could get at some of these mail order nurseries. You could pay like $17, $18 for a little 4-inch pot. And or you can come get huge husky gallons at the Dixon plant sale. So we're proud to offer some of these unique and unusual items. Let's do this next. Okay, I was really not familiar with this valerian, red-flowered valerian, Centranthus rubra Coccineus. I was not familiar with it. Red Jupiter's beard, they call it. We planted this in the Mary Alice Quinn butterfly garden. And Sorry, Susan Baker. I was talking and did not let you in. So anyway, so Jupiter's beard is kind of an interesting thing. We put it in the Mary Alice Quinn butterfly garden, and it's a Mediterranean plant, which usually doesn't do very well for us. But this performed okay in the butterfly garden, and it's a great butterfly plant. Anyway, just make sure it has good drainage, and where it's located there, it's on a slope where it gets really good drainage. But anyway, it is it may get 2 feet to 30 inches tall, and it'll take the sun. An interesting perennial as well. Okay, this is a turtlehead. I know most of you probably know turtlehead, but this turtlehead is a monster. This is called black ace. And, you know, this is a native. Turtleheads are a native. They're usually, think of them as pink. This is a Plants Delight Nursery introduction. And its name, it's black ace is the name of it. It has black, darkish foliage and dark stems. As the summer goes on, that'll fade, especially in our warm climates. So don't expect it to keep that black foliage, but early on it does. And then later in the summer, you get these wonderful turtle heads on it that are white. But check this out. It's 72, yes, I said 72 inches high. So this is a big plant for the back of the border. And butterflies really like it. And I think with it being 72 inches that a lot of gardeners are going to like it too, because we're always looking for big floriferous plants that bloom at a different time for the back of the border, and this fits the bill. So anyway, let's see, anything else on that? I think we have a couple of other tiny Tortuga, which is a little bit short version of that, and some others that are going to be in the sale as well. But this black ace is really nice. All right, Crocosmia Lucifer. There's several different Crocosmias, and Lucifer is one. They grow from corms in the ground, and it has iris-like foliage. And the iris, and it has that iris-like foliage. And anyway, probably maybe 36 to 40 inches high, and really has these blooms on these racemes that can really be striking, especially in the warm border. It works well with like yellows and stuff like that. But really, the iris-like foliage is actually attractive when it's not in bloom. And this is an old-timey cultivar, been around forever. I think we have several others. We have a yellow-flowered form as well, and a couple of others in the sale, in addition to the Lucifer. If you don't want the red. I know some people have an aversion to the red flowers. These dianthus have come a long way. It is definitely a pink one. You know, these are kin to carnations that are in the florist industry, but this is a small little mound. This was a sport of the plant fire witch, which was an original dianthus cultivar that had a long blooming season. And you can deadhead it a lot of times and get it to bloom. We planted one called, it was a red one that we planted. I can't remember the exact name of that cultivar, but it's cherry something that we planted over in the butterfly garden that really surprised me with a long bloom season. You could cut it back and it would bloom again and again. And this is touted as doing the same, about 6 to 8 inches tall, maybe a foot tall at the most, if it's very happy. Has this blue-green grass-like foliage, and the fragrance is very clove-like. So this is just a really improved dianthus, which are perennial carnations. So these will come back every year, but they're smaller than a carnation like you would have at a florist. Coneflowers. You know, the coneflowers are natives that have gone through this sort of real significant breeding programs, breeding for everything. You got everything from green twister over here to powwow white, which is a long blooming one that will repeat bloom. And then I really like these mellow yellows. I think mellow yellows may be a seed strain in these, so you get this variation. which is very fun to a horticulturalist. But anywhere, Powell White's a little bit more compact. Some of these are up to maybe 30 inches, and they give you a long season of bloom in the summer. The Echinacea purpurea, purple coneflower, a good one to have. All right, let's talk a little bit about this used to be, I know it as Eupatorium fistulosum, or Eupatorium dubium, excuse me. Eupatorium little Joe. These are Joe Pye weeds, and they are some of the best plants for butterflies that you can plant. Mid to late summer flowering. This is really one of the more compact ones. It's kind of hard to use the bigger ones that are 4 foot plus, but this is a little bit more manageable for most gardens. This one only gets 3, maybe 4 foot tall. And as I said, it's a kind of a butterfly magnet, and starting in midsummer and going all the way through to a frost, actually, if you keep it deadheaded, it'll keep going. This is Little Joe. Likes some moisture. It'll tolerate wet feet. It'll actually grow in some standing water. If you have poor waterlogged soils, you might give some of this a try. It likes moisture. So I think it's good for rain gardens, things like that as well. Filipendulas, these are really interesting plants that are not, you don't see them much in the trade. This is the palmate foliage. There's another one, Hexapetala, that I really like that has a white flower. But these are fairly big plants. It's a U.S. native, and it's it's tall, and it can maybe get 4 or 5 foot tall, and you have these pinkish flowers that kind of look a little bit like astilbe flowers in their shape anyway. This is never invasive. It's a good plant to add to your perennial border. And I know a lot of people are into natives. The Filipendulas are great. Meadow sweets, I think they call them, is the common name. Filipendula rubra venusta. This is one we will have in the sale, and they're going to be big plants because last year we did not have the sale, and so a lot of these have wintered over. And as you know, perennials get bigger every year, so you're going to get big husky plants at the plant sale. I always love the red hot pokers, and they've started breeding some that do a little better in the south. Typically here they don't have an extremely long bloom season, but they've been working on all different sizes, different heights. Gold Rush it gets big. It can get up to maybe 4 feet, 3.5 maybe. But Fire Dance is really compact, which is what they were breeding for there. And I really like Niphofias, the red hot pokers. As I said, Ken in Hampton, who used to work in the gardens, he was a big Niphophia fan. But a lot of them, the short bloom time, and a lot of people say, well, is it worth it? But now they've extended the bloom times. Compact plants, different colors, like this solar flare here, and Joker's Wild and solar flare. And solar flare gets maybe 2.5, 3 feet, and Joker's Wild is about the same. But a lot of interesting breeding going on in the world of red hot pokers. Again, we're still talking about sun perennials, and these are not native. Another non-native that a lot of people think of them as annuals. People plant lantanas as annuals, and this was the standard, this Mrs. Huff, and it comes back every year. It's very, very hardy. I think we even have them coming back after this 1 degree we got to this year. And so anyway, this was introduced by Goodness Grows Nursery in Georgia, and it's named Miss Huff because guess where it was growing? In Mrs. Huff's garden. So she lived in Athens, Georgia, and that's where this was discovered. And we determined that it was hardy, make it through the winter. So, which is very, very helpful. Lantanas can take up some real estate, though. I mean, these things can get 4 feet wide or more over time, especially the fact that they're perennialized. This Chapel Hill Yellow was an introduction by our good friend Michael Durr, who's the professor emeritus from the University of Georgia. And this is called Chapel Hill Yellow. And he lived in Chapel Hill, North Carolina for a brief period of time. And he was growing a yellow variety that crossed with Mrs. Huff. And it was a chance seedling that just happened to come up in his yard. And it turned out to be hardy. And, you know, it's a little easier to use in most situations to use a pale yellow than it is these orangey colors. So they're a very useful plant, the Chapel Hill Yellow. I mean, these things are flowering machines. They start flowering in maybe June, mid to late June, and they just go through till frost. So I love these perennials that behave as annuals. That's great things to add to your garden because you can count on them to give you a long season of color. Phenomenal Lavender. Everybody knows Phenomenal Lavender now. That's from I think it's Peachtree Farms or Peace Farms, Peachtree. I can't remember. It was a nursery that introduced the Lavender Phenomenal. And, you know, I like Lavender Phenomenal. It was touted as one for the South. Some winters have a tough time getting it through. I think you have to give it real good drainage. But, you know, when it came out on the market, they were touting it as a lavender that would grow in the heavy clay down in Mississippi and the heat and the humidity. And it definitely holds up, and where it's happy, it does a good job. This is a new introduction from the same nursery. It has thicker stems, very floriferous. The silver foliage is a little wider. It's supposed to be good heat and humidity along with cold tolerance. So it's supposed to have a dense habit. Anyway, this thing will get up 24, 30 inches high. I love lavenders. When I lived in the Pacific Northwest, they grew so well. And, you know, sometimes we struggle with things like lavenders and rosemary here. But if you're going to try one, this is a great one to have, this Lavender Intermedia Sensational. I must disclaimer here, I have not grown this one. I'm looking forward to trying it. But we have grown the Phenomenal, which the folks who introduced Phenomenal introduced this plant as well. So we'll see what it does. Another old-fashioned plant with a new cultivar name. I don't know that I know Burning Love, but these are the Maltese Cross. You know, so these bright red flowers in early summer. It gets about 3 foot tall. In looking at this at Monticello, there are examples of scarlet lickness that Thomas Jefferson sowed. So this has an interesting history there. This is native. It's native of Russia, and it was introduced to European gardens in the 1800s. And so that's probably how Thomas Jefferson acquired the seeds of lickness, called Maltese Cross because of the flowers. So it has several other names: Jerusalem Cross, the Campion, which lickness are called Campions, by the way. Campions of Constantinople was one of the names. I like the name Bridget in Her Bravery. But anyway, it's a good butterfly plant, and it's striking, and the hummingbirds like it because it's red. So next slide. Oop. Okay, another lickness. This is a flowering machine here. I was really impressed with this. It's great for borders. You could use it in meadow gardens. They're great cuts as well. Butterfly and bee plant. After this thing blooms, if you cut it all the way back to the ground, it'll come back out and you'll get more blooms. But you cut the flower stalks all the way back to the ground. Don't try to individually deadhead it. That would take you forever. You can just cut it back hard. It needs a little protection from the hot afternoon sun, about 24 inches tall, nice white. And you can look at the calyxes on the flower. They kind of have that rose color to them. A really attractive plant that blooms for a pretty good season, especially if you cut it back. Lickness Petit Henri. Okay, let's go to the next slide, which is let's see if I can do that here. This is a Plants Nouveau introduction. Nepidas are kind of hit or miss here in the Mid-South. This is a variety that was brought in by Plants Nouveau from the UK, and it's Summer Magic is the name of it. And, you know, it's touted as blooming from May till September. Again, I'll have to say that I have not grown Summer Magic, but I hope to. It's a good container plant, real compact, 15 to 16 inches tall. And North Creek Nursery, which is in Landenberg, Pennsylvania, says that it holds up in the heat and the humidity.
Check and see if there's anybody to admit.
Oh, sorry, I forgot to admit people. I got excited here. All right, talking about plants. Okay. All right, so I'm much better at gardening than multitasking. Okay, Petrinia. Petrinia is a great cut flower. This will attract so many little native bees that you can't imagine. And a late summer flower, and this works so well. The yellow is a softer yellow. It's not a golden yellow, and it works really, really well. It plays well with a lot of other colors. It'll work with pastels. It'll work with a lot of different ones. This golden lace is a nice cultivar of it. It'll seed around a little bit, but it's never invasive. Plants Delights offers this, which is Tony Events Nursery, offers this for about $14. We're gonna have big gallons. These stems are kind of see-through, kind of like the verbena from Argentina that we grow. It's kind of a see-through plant like that. You can kind of see through it, so you can do nice effects with it. Drought tolerant, tough as nails. Anyway, in good soils, you can get it really, really, it can get some height to it and it'll overseed. Petrinia, great cut flower, lasts forever. And even after these flowers fade, the nice thing about it is after the flowers fade, the yellow persists. All right, let's see if I can. Okay. You know, penstemons, the Latin name penstemon, as you can imagine, means pent, which means 5, and stamen is stamens. So 5 stamens. So if you're into counting stamens, you can look in the flowers here and you'd see 5 stamens. Most penstemons don't like us here in Memphis. I've tried a lot of them over the years. A lot of them do really well in the Pacific Northwest. About probably maybe 25 years ago, 20 years ago, one came on the market, which was Husker's Red. And Husker's Red was a dark foliage one with white flowers, and it would hold up for us. And since then, they've improved on these dark penstemons and have given us Blackbeard and Dark Towers. I have both of them planted in the Mary Alice Quinn Butterfly Garden, and they bloom longer. They're about 30 inches tall. I mean, it'll go May and June. It'll give you flowers the whole time. You can deadhead it and usually get a second bloom. Anyway, but the foliage is nice. I mean, that dark foliage is you can do a lot of fun stuff with as well. So these are some penstemons. They're improvements over Husker's Red. I think it's Penstemon digitalis was the original one, if I remember correctly. Oh, here's Midnight Masquerade, which is another one. So you have Blackbeard, a little softer purple, Dark Towers, and that's kind of more of a pinky purple, Midnight Masquerade. So those are the Beard's Tongue, the penstemons, another full sun perennial that they've made great improvements on. Oh, I wanted to show you, I got one more slide of this. There it is growing in the Mary Alice Quinn Butterfly Garden, along with some phlox, which we're going to talk about next. So just a plant that has been much improved through breeding. All right, let's talk about some phloxes. So this is the creeping phlox, sometimes called thrift. Our early spring flowers, I associate them with Easter flowering, and but this bedazzled pink is extremely floriferous, and it has a longer bloom time. We have it planted next to a purple form and a white form right outside my office now, and it is blooming like crazy. The others are starting to fade, and it is still going. mixes well with the tulips that are looking good as well. Anyway, it's not very tall. It's you know, a low mounding sort of thing that'll get wide over time and spread. It's almost like a ground cover, but you got to give it good drainage. The foliage almost looks like a heather or something. It looks almost like a conifer. And bedazzled pink is the winner, in my opinion, on bloom time and just number of blooms. It is a much improved bedazzled pink. It's a phlox, the phlox subulata. All right, let's talk about, I just want to say that phloxes, all the phloxes are native. So if you want to plant native plants, phlox are the ones that we grow are cultivars of our native plants. And our buddy Jim Locklear, that is in Omaha at the Botanic Garden there, he wrote a monograph on phlox. So that's basically a book that's all about just the genus phlox. And it is fascinating. And he shows the range and distribution of some of the wild ones, talks about some of the breeding programs and that sort of thing. Prior to that, I talked about Tiarella cordifolia weiryi last time, which is our Dixon strain foam flower. And that name weiryi he was a botanist, and he actually did a monograph, you know, I think in the 40s maybe, on phlox. So there's been some interest in phlox, you know, in gardening that's sort of waxed and waned, but he's a botanist who was paying attention to phlox way back. And but anyway, these are great garden plants. And a lot of people think of these tall garden phloxes, like the next one I'm going to show you, as English plants from, you know, that you grow in England and English borders, but they're all from the United States. So plant explorers brought them back from the States for us. So this is a Phlox caroliniana. A lot of phloxes used to have problems with mildew here. And for the longest time, we grew the white one called David, and it was the most mildew resistant. And then, or you could grow the straight maculata. But Carolina Phlox has always showed some resistance to mildew, and so I think it was used in a lot of these breeding programs. This is the lilac counterpart to the white mini pearl. This is from Walter's Gardens as well, and it starts in May and goes through. Very fragrant plant. Butterflies love it, and you keep deadheading this thing, and you'll get flowers. And expect maybe a 3-foot wide patch in about 3 years. And you know, this thing's shorter. It's maybe 20 inches tall, and great plants to add to, especially if you like pollinators and butterflies. Now, this one's claim to fame is it starts a little earlier than some of the others. And this is another Walter's Garden. And no, this is not Walter's Garden. I'm not sure who introduced this one. But anyway, this has a very floriferous phlox that starts a little bit earlier than some of the others. And that's its claim to fame. But it also boasts a long season of color. If you deadhead them, they'll keep going. And we have these in the Mary Alice Quinn Butterfly Garden as well, and they performed well for us last year. A little bit taller phlox. This one's probably 30 inches. All right, let's go to this looks like it may have some pilosa or the Arkansas phlox or some other based on the foliage, but this is a tight little little mass. It's early bloom time as well, baby doll white. And this is just a little bit, it'll form a nice little mass. This is about 15 inches high. It's a good white form with that pink eye. And yeah, if you shear it back to the ground, you'll get more blooming in the fall. It's a free flowering form of phlox. Rose bouquet, I haven't planted this one. And so, it's part of the early beauty series, which means it blooms earlier too. So that's one of the things they're breeding for in some of these new phloxes. Long bloom times, blooming early. Let's not wait till June for our phlox. Let's get it in May if we can. So anyway, 16 inches high, lighter pink color. This Forever Pink is one that the Mount Cuba trials, I talked about the Mount Cuba trials up in Delaware, and this was one of their top performing selections. The flowers are smaller, compact plant, maybe 20 inches high, blooms in late May and through mid-June, but it's a really good performer. They hybridized Phlox glaberemia with Phlox Carolina Bill Baker. So a good form of the hybrid phlox. And then, you know, you have mini pearl, and then you have daughter of pearl, and this doesn't start up till June, but it's very resistant to powdery mildew, which is something we have to worry about with our heat and humidity here in the Mid-South. This is a tall phlox. This is tall as the old border phloxes. This is probably about 3 foot tall, but this is called the daughter of pearl. It's obviously the daughter of mini pearl. This Gina is really, Gina is a nice one. Smaller flowers again, but this thing, was one of a real good performer in our Mary Alice Quinn butterfly garden, and it did really well at the Mount Cuba trials as well. Starts blooming in mid-July. It's not a real early bloomer, but maybe I'd say early July for us, and it goes through till early September. Big boy though. You know, this thing's 48 inches or better, so it's a big boy. But love the plant, and the color's nice as well. Let's talk a little bit about the mountain mint. I know let somebody else in. I don't know how long they've been waiting here. Okay. This mountain mint it's kind of it spreads, but it's easy to pull up, and it is a native, and it's very aromatic. You can just walk through it, and it has a pleasant smell. It's great for taking up real estate and out competing weeds. You know, I know several gardens here in Memphis that have a fair amount of it. And like I said, you just pull it up where you don't want it. It's really not invasive. Butterflies and other pollinators love it. It's a great little plant to plant. We had some on the at one point we've replanted some other things, but we had some on the south side of the cutting garden at one time. Mountain mint. Okay, let's see. So I can keep track here. Next slide. This is the tall coneflower. Plant's been around for a long time, as the name implies. Maxima, big sort of blue-green, silvery blue-green ears that are at the ground, the basal foliage, and then it sends up these nice, well-developed cones later in the season. Just a fun plant and a great butterfly plant. Grown it for a long time. This thing can get, 4 foot tall. It can get up there. So use it at the back of the border. We actually have this behind the children's greenhouse in the new gardens over there, where it's performing really nicely. So just cut those blooms back after they're finished, or if you want to leave them. The goldfinches love the seeds on this. You'll have goldfinches if you leave the seed pods and let them just fade naturally. But if you're a tidy gardener, you can cut it back, and the blue-green foliage is nice. So midsummer bloomer, Rudbeckia, these are the cone flowers, and not the Echinacea cone flowers, but Rudbeckia is the other cone flowers, most of which tend to be yellow or fall colors. All right, the next one. Oh my gosh, this is just really. I talked about loving perennials that bloom like annuals, and I am so impressed in the size. And this is actually in Carolyn Brown's garden. And by the way, Carolyn Brown put this presentation together for me. Mostly, I added a few fun slides, but this is in her front yard, and it's in her garden, and it bloomed nonstop, starting in late April through October. So this is one we do know something about. We put it in the end caps in the cutting garden, and it is just a great color. It's compact, and guess what? It's perennial. It comes back. So this blooms like an annual, but it's a perennial. And this looks really good with this. I guess that's is that spirea there? Anyway, Salvia Farinacea Unplugged So Blue. The Farinaceas, they're supposed to be perennial. I have mixed success with them, but this is a more compact version. It's a good sized plant that really doesn't get too large. This thing's maybe 20 inches high, but another annual perennial that works like an annual. So I hope this turns out to be more perennial. It's that mealy cup sage, that Farinacea, and the one we looked at before actually has some mealy cup sage in it, but it's got some other salvias as well. But this a really nice plant. I can't say enough good things about this. Mix this with a long blooming sort of soft yellow plant, and you've got a winner. You could use it as annual color. So in that same series, this is Bodacious Rhythm and Blues. You know, the Garanitica has always been a good one for us. This is a little bit smaller, maybe 24 inches. But the blue is always so good on this. So anyway, well worth growing. This is one that I have not grown, Bodacious Rhythm and Blues, that we're happy to offer. You know, it's I guess it's a little bit more compact. Plants Delight Nursery carries this one as well. So you can get it small from Plants Delight and wait on it in the mail, or we can offer instant gratification at the plant sale. All right, moving on here. Okay, this is the 2019 Perennial Plant of the Year. This is a Stachy's. Most of you know Stachy's as lamb's ears, and this is not really fair to call this a lamb's ear because it doesn't have that velvety texture that kids want to touch, but this is Stachy's Humelo, and it's named that because there's a Dutch town, and the Dutch town is where a gentleman named Piet Oudolf is from. And Piet Oudolf is, he did the High Line in New York, and he's done a lot of big perennial installations. And he's one that wants to sell us on the concept of time in the garden. So he leaves these grasses and these seed heads to persist for wildlife and to just give movement. And anyway, he's really kind of been a voice for a new movement in perennial plants. And when I visited his place, I went to Holland one year and I wanted to seek out his place. And this is his, Humelo's not, it's pretty much a farm town. It's cow fields and corn. I mean, it's in the middle of not near much of anything in the Netherlands. And so this is the approach to his drive. There's his house when I visited. And he had these amazing borders. Here's some of that Joe Pye weed we talked about, and solidago. And you got a little phlox down here. So look at all these U.S. natives that they're using in their borders over in Holland. So really nice. And he just built this new house. He's been immensely successful and has had these huge commissions to build gardens all over the world. And if you look at this, you know, that's not typical. That's kind of modern for Dutch culture. His old house, which is the one that I showed you, this is the original house. But I guess after doing so well, he was able to build a new house. And if you look at the colors of the bricks, I mean, this is totally deliberate. He's taken these Joe Pye weeds and these sedums and different things and matched them with the color of the brick in his house. How clever, huh? Anyway, but enjoyed right behind this hedge here is just a cow field and a cornfield. But spent the day with him and visited with Anja, his wife, and she was very, her English was not very good, but we could communicate with Latin because we knew the plants. So anyway, she spent some time with me. We had some tea and walked around the garden. So it was a fun day. There she is. All right, another Stachy's officinalis that's very much like the other one, just a different color, is the pink cotton candy. And we have planted this in the Mary Alice Quinn Butterfly Garden as well. This is plantsman Richard Hawk discovered this and introduced it actually maybe 20 years ago now, but it's really caught on. About 24 inches tall, needs protection from the hot afternoon sun, but it's a great little Stachy's. This is not typical. And these would be more correctly called Bettany if you're into common names, not like the other slide implied. I think it said lamb's ears. So that's Bettany would be a more accurate representation. Okay, Stochesias, cornflowers. This is Peachy's Pick, and this is definitely one of the better of the cornflowers, the Stochesia. You know, there's one called Memphis Blues that we've grown, and there's a guy down in the Gulf Coast that's growing that one. But I tell you, this has more upright stems. It holds the stems upright. It's a better cut. It's just far superior to some of the other Stochesias that are out there. Anyway, big flowers. It's the name kind of throws people, and it did me at first. Peachy is a woman that I think Peachy Saxton, who discovered this, or it was growing in her garden. So it's named for her, not for the color. So don't let the name fool you. But this is about 18 inches tall, and I've been very impressed with this as an improved cornflower over some of the other Danny Blue and some of the other old-fashioned ones, and even Memphis Blues. I really want to like Memphis Blues, but this is a better plant, and we've offered Memphis Blues in the sale before. Okay, Veronicas. There's some awesome Veronicas out there. Very Van Gogh, 18 to 20 inches tall, perfectly Picasso's, maybe a little bit taller, and then Mona Lisa Smile. These are very fitting for the Dixon, right? I mean, artist series of Veronicas. And these boast long bloom times. You can deadhead them and get them to keep going. I was very impressed with them last year. I think the winter maybe got them. We did get down to one, and we covered most things, but these were kind of in an out-of-the-way place. And so the winter got some of them, but I think they're going to be plenty hardy. Just give them good drainage, and we'll see. This will be our second year to offer these. Like I said, I was very impressed with them last year, and I do have some in the Mary Alice Quinn butterfly garden as well. Peonies. Everybody knows us for having the peonies, and they're just wonderful. The key to growing peonies in Memphis is to get the earlies or the mids. The late ones, it gets too hot for them. I also like to plant them maybe behind a tiny diminutive boxwood hedge or something else that can hide the foliage, because the foliage can look bad late in the summer. But if you can have something that holds its head up above, like a little tiny, think of a 10 or 16-inch little miniature boxwood hedge or something that it could poke up above, you get the benefits of the flowers in the spring, and then you don't have to worry about the foliage looking unsightly later on. But these are wonderful. The herbaceous herbaceous peonies, perennial plants that are great, good cuts, and we love them. There's a lot of different ones out there. We also have the intersectional hybrids. You know, there's tree peonies, there's regular peonies, and then there's intersectional. And these are the Itos. And the Itos demand a pretty hefty price, but they are really nice. These are fairly new hybrids. Some of the other ones we have, the straight peony lactifloras, are not as they've been around a long time, but this is a fairly new thing. But the Itos can come in many different colors. So there you go. All right, I heard there was a shortage in, we're going long here, sorry, David Austin English roses this year. Nobody could get them. And so we found someone who had them. You know, we used to grow a lot of David Austin English roses in the perennial border, in the cutting garden. And I really miss them. These wonderful cabbages that are so fragrant. I mean, these really just bowls of flowers. Most of them are not that good at cuts, but they're just pastel colors, and they are fabulous. And so we're gonna have some this year. They'll be in 3-gallon sizes, and we're proud to offer some David Austin English roses. We have someone that's a trustee at the Dixon who is interested in some David Austin English roses. So I kind of had him in mind whenever we brought these in, and the fact that you can't get them anywhere, just wonderful colors. David Austin English roses. You know, most of them do require some spraying. All right, let's run through the shrubs real quick. This is the bottlebrush buckeye, and we've got a good form that makes this sort of rounded haystack of white flowers in midsummer. and yellow fall color, great plant. Back in the 80s, people couldn't grow enough of these, and it was really in demand because it's the native bottle brush buckeye. Just a really good plant that's been popular for some time. The red buckeye is blooming right now, and I love this plant because of its association with the ruby-throated hummingbird. If you look at the tubular flower, the only thing that can get to the nectar is the ruby-throated hummingbird. The only downside to this plant is in the Mid-South, sometimes it'll defoliate early. And so anyway, but this is the red buckeye, and it's wonderful in flower now. And you can see its range and distribution all over. This green highlights its range. And so here's the ruby-throated hummingbird, and here's the migration map of the ruby-throated hummingbird. So this plant is perfectly paired with this creature. And when I see stuff like that, it's just amazing. I don't know how you could be agnostic. You got to believe in something. I mean, this is so amazing. If you look at the bloom times of the plant versus the migration of the hummingbird, this plant paves a highway for the northward migration of the ruby-throated hummingbird. It's in bloom now. Carol Reese sent me a text yesterday and said she saw her first hummingbird. And then I was talking to Norma Montesi in the gardens today, and she said that she saw her first one. And then Chris reported his first hummingbird as well. So it's perfectly choreographed, this nectar reward for this creature, and it blooms later as you go further north. So it kind of matches the time that it blooms and makes a highway for hummingbirds. Pretty amazing. So I have never done this before, but I'm going to attempt to put a video. I've embedded this video. This is out in Arlington, hummingbirds, and it's just that sometimes they're so thick they're like mosquitoes. It's a great problem to have. But here's just one afternoon I was filming some, and if you notice, the males are so aggressive and they chase all the females away. And they're very protective. They'll spend more time chasing the females away than they do eating. And the fact is, there's 4 perches there. They should share a little, but they don't. But just amazing little creatures. I love them. They're so tiny. And if you've ever held one in your hand, they're pretty amazing. All right, I said we use this sale as a vehicle to sort of promote new plants. This is a plant that we kind of introduced to the Mid-South horticulture, Edgeworthia chrysantha, or paper bush. This year was a very good year for them. Last year, I know a lot of people didn't get flower. The flower buds were damaged by the cold. But this is a winter flowering plant that starts out with these cymes that are about the size of a silver dollar, and they radially open and extremely fragrant. It's related to Daphne. We can't grow Daphne very well, although I probably am going to jinx it if I say it, but we do have a Daphne growing in our we call it the global warming bed outside in the parking lot, and it is surviving, knock on wood. But in general, Daphnes don't do well here, but this has the fragrance of a Daphne on a deciduous plant. Kind of a tropical look in the summer, and we're really happy to have introduced this to Mid-South horticulture. All right, here it is in the summer, so you can see. Kind of has almost a tropical look. Fatsia japonica, a good shade plant. It's actually kin to English ivy, but it doesn't behave like that. But this is a shrub, and big foliage. We need big foliage plants, and this is one for the shade. Fatsia japonica, and a lot of them were probably nipped back by 1 degree. So, but you know, we don't get to 1 degree very often, so replant it. It's a great plant. Mountain laurels. You're thinking, gosh, why do we have mountain laurels? Well, the Dixon has a history of mountain laurels. I think there are mountain laurels that are monsters here that were probably planted by Hugo Dixon. And mountain laurels, as the name implies, you would expect a plant named Mountain, and it would not do well in our bottomland soils here in Memphis. But our friend down in Alabama, Bobby Green, has selected several cultivars that are on the southernmost end of their range. They're growing in poorly drained soil. He said that waterlogged soils, he said, down in southern Alabama. And anyway, so the cultivars we have, you can see the range does go into southern Alabama. So down on the southernmost end of its range is where he's selecting these things. And so I think they're well suited to Memphis. But anyway, we have some that grow along the terrace walk that have been in for long before I got here at the Dixon, and so we're pleased to offer some mountain laurels that are good for Memphis. All right, another one that we got from our friend down in Alabama, Bobby Green. This was taken at the plant sale. This was taken just the other day. This is Fothergilla, and Fothergilla is a great plant for Memphis. Spring blooming. The blooms smell like honey. It's a native, and you can see what it does. A mounding shrub like this, good fall color. Fred Nation is a plantsman, and he introduced it. That's why it's called Redneck Nation. I'm not crazy about the name, but Michael Durr says he sees it growing in full sun, full hot sun, which is something that you couldn't do with other Fothergillas. But the nice blue-green foliage is the reason to grow it, and the great fall color as well as the bloom. And I was going to tell my Fothergilla story, but I'll have to do that another time because we're running out of time. We still got a few ground covers and vines to cover it. I'm going to blow through these real quick. Ajuga reptans blueberry muffin, fantastic. Little ground cover in full bloom right now. It's dense. It smothers out weeds. It is a great plant. Terra Nova introduction, I believe. Blueberry muffin is a great ajuga. We love it here. Another ground cover that can be kind of, it can spread with some vigor. I wouldn't say, well, it's never a problem really. Just plant it where you know it can take up some space, like in between stepping stones. I planted Alba as a teenager in a zoysia lawn where it was starting to get too shady for the zoysia, and it has outcompeted over time, outcompeted the zoysia as it got shadier, and they've sort of discovered a nice balance between them, where the Alba reptan, Mesis reptans Alba is creeping into where the shadier spots, and then it goes to the fescue, the zoysia, which is a nice thing. And lots of clematis, some really good ones. We had a clematis expert help us pick some of these out for Memphis. This is the best Confederate jasmine. Confederate jasmine is not cold hardy for us. This Confederate jasmine has more of a citrusy smell to it. It doesn't have that sort of, the other jasmines have sort of a stronger perfumey smell. This is more of a citrusy smell, and very floriferous and vining a plant. You got to give it something to grow on. But this is a hardy Confederate jasmine, and I also like it because my daughter's name is Madison. Lots of major wheeler honeysuckle, another good hummingbird plant. You can tell by the shape of the flower and the color of the flower. This is our native honeysuckle. This is not the Japanese honeysuckle that takes over the world. This is a well-behaved native with glaucous blue foliage, a good vine. If you have an arbor for it to grow on, it really nice. It'll tolerate a fair amount of shade and still flower. Excited about these. This is the Lady Banks rose. No thorns on this guy. Nice, soft yellow flowers. Yellow Lady Banks climbing rose, a good plant. It won't twine. You've got to give it something to tie it to or put it up against a wall. We've also got hanging baskets of Passiflora, but this year the baskets are filled with one that's supposed to be hardy. Last year, the year before last, we had a lot of baskets, hanging baskets, and they were not necessarily hardy Passiflora. This incense is supposed to be hardy. So buy it in the basket, then you can plant it in the ground after it outgrows the basket, or repot it into a bigger basket for next year. Large selection of herbs. Here's a list of some of them. I'm not going to get into too much detail, but we're having lots of herbs. Scented geraniums. Okay. Those of you who know me know that I'm not a huge fan of scented geraniums. They're kind of novelties. Nobody's ever going to stop their car and say, wow, look at those scented geraniums. But a lot of people collect them. I guess they're highly collectible. And when my mom was asking for a plant from the plant sale, she said, I'd love you to pick me up a plant from the plant sale. And she looked at the list and she wanted a scented geranium. So I guess I'll find space in my heart for scented geraniums. But as of now, I'm still not a fan. But there's a lot of different colors and fragrances. They all smell different, which is kind of bizarre and kind of a novelty, I guess. Anyway, shopping by appointment for those who didn't see the first slide. Preview sale on the 15th. We've extended the hours on site from 12 to 7. The public shopping days, 16th and 17th. If you're not a member, I would encourage you to become a member if you want the good plants, because a lot of things will be sold out by the time we hit Friday morning. Anyway, we are limiting the numbers, so please sign up on the Dixon website. If you have trouble, I think you can call the Dixon number and we can walk you through how to sign up for that. So, sorry I went late. I hope folks are still with me, and looks like I've got a whole bunch of questions, and hopefully I can figure out how to go through the questions.
Hi, Dale, this is Sarah. You don't actually have any questions. People were just chatting.
Oh. Okay, good, because I didn't pay attention to that. So that's good, because I was not sure that I knew how to do that. So
Well, now actually you've just got one question from Juliet. Do the scented geraniums also have different colored flowers?
yeah, but you're not growing them for the flowers. You're growing them for the different colored foliage and the different fragrances of the flowers. So anyway, so that's a good question, Juliet. Neil Stringer says they've seen their first hummer too. So that's something that everybody can count on. When the red buckeye is in bloom, you will see your first hummingbird, and I think that's just an amazing thing. And that plant animal association. So anyway, any other questions? Anybody want to chime in and have any questions, or have I put you all to sleep? It's kind of, I don't get any audience feedback when I'm doing this Zoom stuff.
Dale, will you have any camellia bushes?
We will have quite a few camellias. We'll have some in 3-gallon size. And most of them we've grown here, or we know that they do well in the Mid-South.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Dale, you had to cancel a presentation you were meant to do this earlier, a 3 months ago, about pruning. Is there a chance that you'll reschedule that sometime later this year?
Yeah, I think we can do that. Norma's on this, listening to this, and she is the one who would schedule that. We usually are several months out because we have to put it in the quarterly, but that's something we could do. I would love to do it in person. So hopefully when everyone's vaccinated, maybe we could, when everyone's vaccinated and Kevin cuts his hair, we can get back together and all do workshops and stuff again, which is going to be a real exciting time for me. So
That'd be perfect.
any other questions?
Thank you very much. This was wonderful.
Well, good. I hope to see you all at the plant sale. Get by the Dixon if you haven't yet. The blooms are fading, so get on by and check them out. We have a lot of azaleas that are coming into flower, so it's always something coming on stronger. But if you want to see tulips, you need to get here now, okay?
Okay.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for your patience with my technological difficulties there. It's not my forte. So anyway, all right.
It was
Thanks,
wonderful.
Dale.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.